So, as you can clearly see, I've made no attempt to film this properly because I'm not going to be on screen for most of the video and I just don't feel like it. So, years ago, 2 years ago at this point, I made a video called Strange Dreams I've Had about strange dreams that mostly my brother has had. One of them was my dream, but the other two were his dreams, and I'm doing that again. Do I look terrible? Usually I can't see myself while I'm filming, but I can this time and I feel like I look terrible. Do I look terrible? You'll tell me if I do, right? So while my dreams are quite a hoot, Nate, my brother, his dreams are a lot more entertaining and funny. So the best ones in this video are going to be his dreams, and there's nothing I can do about that, because I don't control my dreams. I'll have it labeled when it's my dream, when it's his dream. It doesn't matter whose dream it is, but it will be his dream if it's really funny. So without further ado, let's begin with Strange Dreams I've Had Part 2, or whatever I decide to call this video. Nate, Ben, and Bill were walking down the greenway, carrying a red blanket. All of the trees started falling down and destroying the path. Nate was afraid, so he put the red blanket over his head to hide. They all escaped the greenway and arrived at a shopping center. Nate went into a Grillo's Pickle restaurant. He left because there weren't any trees in the building, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Bill wouldn't get off of his phone. Nate asked, "Why?" Bill said, "I'm waiting for her to text me in case we all die here." Bill put his phone away and all three of them stole a brown van. They all sat in the front of the car, including FaZe Marlin, who owned the car. Ben had to sit in the back seat because nobody liked him. Marlin said, "Hey, get out of my car!" Nate said, "Sorry, man. Hey, this is a nice car. Do you drive this?" Marlin replied, "Yeah, I do." They got to their destination, a big open field. There was a wedding venue in the field with a sign that said, FaZe Marlin, now 50-50 British trans. In the venue, there was a woman holding a vertical Scottish flag. They left Ben in the car, and Nate congratulated Marlin. People were saying that Marlin had had an eye surgery, but Nate saw that he hadn't. He took Marlin to an alley and took a picture with him, but it looked terrible. Ben and Nate were walking in the woods when Nate found a funny bug. He wanted to catch it, explaining, "Not only is it funny, but it will make me rich." Nate couldn't catch it, so Ben caught it. When he did, it granted him one wish. Nate stole Ben's wish. Nate wished, "I want to smoke a cigarette over there." Nate walked 5 feet to the left and smoked a cigarette for 8 seconds. Because Nate wished correctly, he was given eternal life and a second wish. Nate wished, "I want to smoke a cigarette with that guy." Nate then spent eternity smoking a cigarette next to Jerry Stiller, the original singer of Just the Two of Us. Nate was hanging out with his group of friends, the Motown Boys. The Motown Boys consisted of Jonathan, Mr. Crunk, MG, and Timothy Dexter Chalamet. Their hangout spot was a little metal shack inside of a Mexican military base. Nate tried to leave, but when he opened the door, it was completely blocked by snow. He was suddenly blown back into the shack by a seemingly unstoppable force. He recovered and looked up at a man standing there. The man yelled, "I'm in the Motown Boys now. I'm Benny Ben." All of the Motown Boys cheered. MG said, "Wait, he needs initiation." Everyone nodded and murmured. Initiation for the Motown Boys involved taking a flight to the thrift store with Timothy as a pilot. Timothy did not know how to fly a plane. They all got in and began flying, but almost immediately started descending. They luckily landed in the hole to China that they had previously dug. They ended up at China Thrift. They all got out and ran away, leaving Nate alone. He went into the store and walked downstairs. He looked through the BBCE stamp albums. He was then approached by a very old and creepy guy. The old guy said, "Man, you're old!" Nate left the building and went to the backyard. He saw the old guy sitting in a gazebo. The old guy yelled, "Hey you! You're old!" Nate ran away, but the man closely followed. Nate turned the corner and ran into the parking lot. He looked back and the man was now a woman. Nate tried to kick her, but his suspenders were so tight that he couldn't move his legs. Nate got into his car and he ran the creepy old lady over. He drove back to the shack where the snow was still blocking the door. He pushed through all of it and got into the shack. All of the Motown boys said, "Hey you! You're young!" Nate smiled and went to the fridge to get a Skyr beer. He suddenly noticed that all of the fridge magnets were melting. So he opened up the wall and got out the sombreros. He cut them up into circles and then packed snow onto them. He went around to each Motown boy and had them sign their initials into the snow. They all went into the office where Benny Ben was sitting. Benny Ben got ready to sign his initials, but all of the Motown boys said, "Benny Ben, you are banned from the Motown boys." Benny Ben panicked and replied, "What? You can't kick me out. I'm Benny Ben. I founded this joint." But the Motown boys all shook their heads. Benny Ben pleaded, "Come on, I'll let you be Natey Nate, Crunky Crunk." All of the Motown boys gathered snow and buried Benny Ben. They all celebrated by toasting their Skyr beers and saying, "To Mrs. Claus." Ben was going to a party wearing his classic yellow striped shirt. He met up with Riley 1. Ben said, "This is like the 5th account I've used to go to one of these parties. Remember the last one where I was AUBL author?" Riley shook her head. She said, "No." The party was inside of a small shopping center. Ben entered where someone was giving orders. She said, "Hey you, go over there. Ian, resolve that conflict." She grabbed Ben. "Hey Ben, write the biography of Ewan McGregor." Ben attempted to write the biography of Ewan McGregor, but he was asked to guard the bathroom. So, he spent the rest of the party guarding the bathroom. Ben was challenged for access to the bathroom by a dangerous armadillo named Adillo. Ben lost the fight and fled to the Arc de Triomphe in France. He was quickly pursued by Adillo. Ben leapt off and deployed his parachute. He landed next to his parents. His mother said, "Did you really skydive off of the Arc de Triomphe? I could never do that." Ben walked home. Along the way, he was in conflict with Nate because Nate was really good at everything and very popular. Nate said, "Loser, you'll never get the 6th badge and get the badge." Ben frowned and ran to a grocery store. He purchased both the 6th badge and the badge. This was announced to the entire world and Ben was famous and popular forever. Visiting New York City, Bill and Nate went to the slums. They were looking for pizza when they had to stop the car because Fat Giovanni was trying to sell them pizza. Because he interrupted them, they decided not to get pizza. They kept driving and they found a thrift store. Inside, they found Danny DeVito. Bill said, "Nate, I'll need a picture of you and Danny holding something Swedish for work." Nate picked up a wooden owl made in Sweden and he took a picture with Danny DeVito. They left the thrift store and Danny DeVito came with them. Outside, there was a downpour of rain, worse than anything that had happened in New York before. The car had turned into a van. Inside of the van, there were 5 seats. Bill sat in the driver's seat, Danny DeVito sat in the passenger seat, and Nate sat in the back middle seat. Nate looked to his right, and Ben was running to the van, trying to get in. He wasn't in New York before, and he was trying to catch up to Nate. Nate opened the door and Ben grabbed onto the handle, but Bill hit the gas and started driving. Ben, while the car was driving, was hanging onto the door. His body was flailing horizontally due to the speed of the car. The door closed, but Ben was still hanging on. The car kept driving until they were out of the rain in a sunny countryside. Nate said, "Father, Ben is hanging onto the door. Let him in." Nate looked over at Ben. Ben said, "Man, you'd think the Swedish would be nicer." At the church, there were 2 guys carrying a big wooden sign. It was an advertisement for the church. Bill couldn't stop the car in time, so he crashed right through the sign. Betty freaked out and wouldn't sit still, so Nate grabbed her leg and flicked the switch to make her nice instead of evil. Nate received a vision from his mother, who told him to set a reminder to flip the switch once they got home. So that was Strange Dreams Part 2. I hope you liked it, because it took me a long time to edit. I assume. I haven't edited it yet, so I best get started with that. I will see you in a different video, if not the next one.